Hi everybody. All right, so I am finishing up block 8-1 today, and I'm going to start with the two end pieces. So we have this darker pink with the birds and then the light pink tip. So I'm going to do those and then insert these after and then kind of combine them all together from there. So my tip for these is when you do your triangles, you have your tails that go all different ways, and so sometimes the want is to tuck these tails in so you don't have too many tails, but the tails don't really matter on this part because they're just going to get attached to sashing, which doesn't have any tails anyway, so they're not going to be in the way of anything. So I find it easier to actually do the side where the two tails go out, so it's flat sides together here, because when you do your matching up, your tails actually give you like an edge so that you can know that your piece is properly centered, if that makes sense. So this would go right along the edge there, whereas if you did it with your tails in, you have to try and make sure your corners match up, which is a little bit harder, if that makes sense. So what we're going to do is, I'm actually driving right now. We are traveling the country while I'm doing this, so I'm going to turn off the camera. I'm going to get this all lined up and stitch it out and show you what it looks like. So I stitched these two. I just want to show you before I unclip this how these tails help you line up. You can see this goes flat here, these go along this edge, so it really helps you line up that top edge a lot better. So we'll take the clip off, and you can see my edges are pretty well straight. I mean, there's a little bit of over under, but that just goes into the sashing, so it's really not going to be a big deal. I'm certainly not going to redo it for that. So I have both of those now stitched together, and so our next step will be to insert these diamonds, and then these will, once those are all inserted, these will just get stitched to the top and bottom. So the next part that we're going to do is going to be setting in this triangle. I'm going to put my tails in just so they don't interfere with anything. Again, not really a big deal because most of it will go into the sashing anyways, but it just makes it look cleaner for this one, and there's really no reason not to. So we have 3 seams to sew here. We have this seam, and this seam to sew, because remember we didn't attach these when we attached them to our middle. So you can sew 2 seams, cut your thread, and then sew your third one. I personally don't like cutting my threads if I don't have to, so probably what I will do is sew this seam first, then carry my thread without stitching up to here, then stitch down, and then stitch down. That's usually what I do so that I don't have to cut my thread. So the first step will be to line this up, which is pretty easy. You want to line up these two sides really nice and straight, so you get a nice straight edge there, and then stitch from this side into the middle, and I'll show you the next step in a minute. Okay, so I stitched this part right here. You can see all the way across. So now I still have these 2 seams. So obviously if I go down, I gotta cut my thread and then come back and do this one. I like to travel my thread, so what I will do is I'll actually travel underneath this flap as close to the edge as I can, come out here, tie my knot, and then go up and around. I may not have cut my thread long enough for this one to do the whole thing, so you do want to do it a little bit longer just because you are using up extra thread by doing that, but hopefully this will work. So we'll give it a try and show you the result. Okay, so we are in the hotel now, but I just wanted to do a quick video to show you how I ended up stitching this corner piece in, this diamond in. So I had started by doing the 1 row, and then I was going to travel my thread and then come back up and do that and go that way without breaking the thread. But I discovered that with glue basting, it's not so easy to travel your thread that far. For shorter distances like these, it's not too bad, but it was not easy to do it this way. And I didn't want my thread over the fabric, because if I went over the fabric, I could catch it with my stitching, but then sometimes it shows on the front, and I don't like that look. So in the effort of real life of how we do this, I could have gone back and changed that other video, but I decided not to. I decided to stitch it. So what I did is I cut the thread, restarted down here, and then just stitched this way, and that's how I'm gonna have to do them. So going forward for each of them, I'll stitch this, cut the thread, and then restart it, and then do those two together. So obviously I have all the rest to do, so I will get that done hopefully today. We have a lot of driving today, so hopefully I'll be able to fit that in. And then we'll show how we attach the top and bottom, which is fairly straightforward, but we'll show it anyways because we show everything in these videos. All right, let's get going. I just wanted to show this part so you can see there's a little bit of a gap between my two pieces that I sewed to the middle part. That's not really a big deal. We're just going to go ahead and stitch it as is. I'm not going to redo anything. EPP is a pretty forgiving method, so we're just going to fold it over and stitch along that edge, and that'll close everything up, and I'll show you what it looks like once I'm done. So this is all stitched up now. I'll just take off my magnet, and you can see there is a little bit of a pucker there, but once all these papers come out, that'll ease into itself, no problem whatsoever. So don't be afraid to just make it work. EPP is really well known for that. Okay, so our last step is to attach these triangles, I guess, to the top and bottom here. And that's fairly straightforward. We're just going to line them up like this, stitch across, and then we're done. So I will go ahead and get that done and show you the end result. We are finally done this block. I don't know if you get the whole thing in the picture, but my ends are on. Nice middle. So it was pretty straightforward to stitch these ends on, and that was it for the end of the block. And we'll just put our border on the edge. And yeah, if you have any questions about how this is put together, feel free to comment below, or if you have any ideas for other tutorials you'd like to see, let me know. Thanks everybody.